Hey everybody, it's Sam with Wrestling Overtime with your Raves and Rants review of AEW Dynamite for May 13th, 2020. And I'm going to be real honest with you. After watching this show tonight, I can see why the ratings fell a little bit. This show, for the first time, I really felt that it kind of dragged a little bit. It had some awesome confrontations, but I'm not sure that they were quite at the level that the AEW fans are expecting. And it seems like AEW fans are wanting the spectacular every single week, and I'm not sure that any show can do that. I'm not sure that MASH can do that. I'm not sure Grey's Anatomy can do that, or you know, SVU or Law and Order, or any of the shows. So I think that AEW fans have to realize that there are going to be some shows that are middle type shows, where the spectacular shows are the ones that really set up the program, get you interested. Then you have some middle shows that kind of continue the storyline, but they're not quite at the level of the spectacular. And then your program has to build with these middle shows to get to the pay-per-view. And then once you get to the pay-per-view, you pull out all the stops. And it looks like that some of these middle shows, where they're building up that storyline, but it's not quite over the top, it's not quite spectacular, that a lot of fans are kind of wanting to tune out or flip back and forth. And I can't believe they're doing that just because they're missing sections. They're missing the storyline. And one of those is the Lance Archer, Jake Roberts, Cody, Brandy Rhodes storyline that's been going on. I don't know how many fans realize that this storyline has really been going on for a couple months. It was from the very first time that we got introduced to Jake the Snake Roberts and his client, Lance Archer, that they immediately started calling out Cody. It's only now that several weeks later that they actually last week got their hands on Brandy Rhodes. When you think about it, they still haven't had a run-in with Cody until tonight. And so how the show starts off is Lance Archer and Jake Roberts come down to the ring. Jake says that he's been asked to apologize, but that she can kiss his ass first. He says that everything is fair game once you step into the ring. Well, the problem with that whole situation is Brandy didn't step into the ring. If you guys remember last week, Brandy was actually getting into it with Dr. Britt Baker. Dr. Baker had taken her shoe off and hit QT Marshall with it, so Brandy took her shoe away from her and threw it in the stands. So Dr. Britt Baker jumped the barricade and DDT'd Brandy on the floor, which knocked her out. She was out cold. She was not in the ring. She was in the floor. It was only after Lance Archer and Britt Baker got her into the ring, still unconscious, that Jake Roberts was able to put the snake all over her and simulate humping her and other things. So I'm not sure that he's not correct. Once you step in the ring, then you are fair game. The problem is, Brandy didn't step there. Jake then goes ahead and continues talking about how women are great at home for wiping babies' butts and cooking and cleaning and keeping men warm. Now, of course, as he says that, we hear a truck rev up. Well, the camera quickly pans over to a black truck that has Cody's logo on the hood. Cody's dressed in his normal suit, and he drives forward to knock over the guardrails. And as he gets out, takes off his tie and jacket and everything, Archer comes at him. When he gets there, Cody low blows him. But Archer immediately shakes that off, picks Cody up, and throws him into a table. As they go back and forth and get to ring slide, Cody slams Lance into the ring post. And then he grabs Archer's ponytail and tries to choke him with it. Cody rolls into the ring and throws a chair at Lance that doesn't really hit him. He almost catches it, glances off of him. And he goes for the claw on Cody. Cody stops it, and he actually attempts to do the Cody Cutter. However, Archer blocked it and then quickly went over to where Jake was, and they retreated backstage. Not sure how this one's gonna hold up. As you guys heard my rant last week after what Jake did with Brandy and how he was objectifying women and everything, I was glad to see that Cody stood up for Brandy this week. However, I was a little disappointed that Brandy didn't come out. I really looked for Brandy to get involved and do some kicking, like low blowing Jake, or even low blowing Lance Archer, or throwing Cody the chair. I really was expecting Brandy to be this boss lady, that she portrays herself and actually help Cody take care of business. Now, the first match of the night was the Jurassic Express with Marco Stunt versus the Best Friends with Orange Cassidy. Now, this is one of the matches that I've talked about in previous episodes where fans seem to struggle with who to root for, because they've pretty much played Jurassic Express as babyfaces. And here recently, they have portrayed Best Friends, especially with Orange Cassidy, as babyfaces, especially during the pandemic. And so I really think that fans, when they see this, they're like, ooh, I like them both. And they're not real sure who to root for and what's going to happen, because they don't want to see them cheat to win, because that's a heel tactic. Well, I have no issues with who to root for or who to be watching, because I'm glad to see the Jurassic Express back. I actually have missed seeing Luchasaurus and his size and athleticism, and in a way, I've missed Jungle Boy. I was kind of hoping that the heat had gotten to him out there in California and that he had chopped that mop. But I understand he wants to look like Mowgli from Jungle book, and so he kept it. But they look like they haven't missed a beat. Like they have been working out, they've been practicing, because they work together really well on their tag team maneuvers, on, tagging with each other, getting in and out quickly, and just with their moveset, they seem to be really smooth. Now, towards the end of the match, Orange Cassidy kind of looked like he might get involved in the match. He stood up. That's very unusual for Orange Cassidy to be awake and to stand up. But out of nowhere comes Rey Fenix and hits him with a dragon kick that just about knocked Orange Cassidy's head off. They showed it a couple times. They showed it in slow-mo. And Rey Fenix gets all of Orange Cassidy. And like I said, I am shocked that his head was not rolling around on the floor, but I'm sure it was ringing. Trent and the referee actually got distracted, which allowed MJF, who was ringside, to take advantage. He attacked Jungle Boy, who he's going to be taking on May 23rd in Double or Nothing. After he attacked Jungle Boy, Chucky T took advantage of this and hit a pile driver for the win. Now, Wardlow got involved by throwing Marco Stunt into the barricade. The Best Friends went to check on Orange Cassidy, and Luchasaurus had to help Marco up. And then we got a fatal four-way with the women's contenders. I'm not sure why this match needed to happen. If you go on AEW's site, Shida was so far ahead of everyone in the ratings that it wasn't even funny. She's been undefeated in, I guess, the last 3 or 4 months. And so for them to kind of talk, JR talked about how this should have a bearing on who the number one contender for Nyla Rose's title should be. Well, I just didn't think it should. I think it should automatically be Shida. Well, we have Dr. Britt Baker, Chris Statlander, Haku Shida, and Penelope Ford in this match. And while this was a better match than normal for the women, and it seemed like it was put together more, it flowed a little easier. There wasn't as many lags in the action and everything. It still wasn't great. I don't know. It just wasn't that interesting. When you look at them on paper, when you see Britt Baker's heel work, you see Chris Statlander having her gimmick of being an alien, and then Shida just flying all over the ring and doing a lot of the moves that she does. This should be a good match, and it's just not catching anyone's attention, and I'm not sure what they need to do in order to catch someone's attention. But anyway, Shida hits Ford with a gutbuster, and then the running knee for the win. Now, I was wondering, where's Baker? Because for the last couple minutes of the match, I really didn't see her getting involved in any action. After the match was over, though, we see her. She had Chris Statlander in her lockjaw at ringside. And it was almost like she was punishing Statlander. So I don't know if Baker's going after her. Maybe she thinks aliens need their teeth fixed. I'm not too sure. But Shadea got the win, and she deserved it, like I said, because she's been ahead in the rankings for the last couple months. Then we get Santana and Ortiz versus Kenny Omega and Matt Hardy. They show a little bit of last week's match where at the end, Santana and Ortiz came out and attacked Omega and then attacked Hardy. And that's how Jericho and Sammy Guevara got the win last week. So that's the reason for the match this week, is they want to get them back. Now, as Kenny Omega comes out to his music and his video package, Santana and Ortiz attack him. They take quite a few shots, do a couple double team moves on him, while Matt Hardy seems to take his good old time getting out there. And when he arrives, he has to look in the camera, and of course, Tony and JR have to figure out who he is, and they're like, I think that's Damascus. Well, if I'm Kenny Omega, I think I don't care. I think Damascus or Matt Hardy, or if he's Joe Blow this week, I don't really care. He needs to get his butt down that tunnel and help me, because Kenny Omega was getting the garbage beat out of him. So Santana goes to attack Matt Hardy, and Hardy bites him, which is the second time, because last week we saw him bite Sammy Guevara. So that must be a thing that he's gonna be doing here in the next couple of weeks. I was shocked at how good Hardy and Omega look together in their double team combinations, in tagging in and out. I understand they're veterans. I understand that both of them have been in numerous tag team matches, but they seem like they had worked together forever with the speed and the ease that they were doing this. They seem to flow like an old tag team would. Ortiz ended up poking Kenny in the eye twice, and the match continued on until Hardy put Ortiz in the butterfly submission. Then we see Sammy Guevara in a neck brace with a chair come out. Now, Hardy ends up hitting him with a twist of fate, and Kenny ends up doing the V-trigger, on Ortiz, and they end up winning. So Sammy coming out didn't really help. He probably should have stayed in and rested his neck. But then an interesting segment took place. If you guys remember last week, Taz tried to interview Darby Allin and basically said that it was Darby Allin's fault that he lost to Cody. And Darby took a little bit of offense to that, didn't say a word, and just walked away. So they tried again this week, and Taz starts off apologizing to Darby for last week and the things that he said. But then, again, Taz has to say it was Darby's fault for the loss. Darby gets up and gives him this unbelievable look and says he knows how to wrestle, that he amateur wrestled in high school, and again walks away. So I'm interested in seeing what's going to happen with that. Are they slowly getting to the dark side of Darby Allin where he may start putting a hurting on anyone that he starts facing. Of course, then they go to a Shadiah interview, and she's extremely happy, and I don't blame her. She's been on top of the mountain now for a couple months, waiting for Nyla Rose to come back, and she's finally getting her chance to wrestle Nyla Rose at Double or Nothing. Rose comes up to congratulate her, and Shadiah seems, I don't know, amazed that Nyla Rose is doing this. Well, she should have been, because Nyla ends up taking and hitting her over the head with a kendo stick. So, that didn't end well. Then MJF's back, and he is ready to wrestle. Of course, he's got Wardlow escorting him out, and he's taken on Lee Johnson, who basically has been a jobber for AEW the whole entire time of the pandemic. MJF makes really quick work of this. He shows off a lot of different skills and ends up powerbombing Lee Johnson before using his submission armbar to get him to tap. Then MJF got on the mic to talk about how he's a little upset that he still has ring rust. And he wants Marco Stunt to wrestle him next week. Which is crazy. But it's MJF, so go figure. Then we get Chris Jericho with the whole entire Inner Circle coming out versus Pineapple Pete. Not sure why Chris Jericho felt the need that he needed to bring the whole Inner Circle, but he has made Pineapple Pete. Pineapple Pete will always be Pineapple Pete. He actually has a shirt now, and this was pretty quick work too. Jericho ended up slapping him, and Pineapple Pete fought back. Pete actually hit a running back elbow twice. He went for it the third time, and Jericho blocked it and ended up hitting him with the Judas effect. And Pineapple Pete went down and didn't get back up. Jericho took the win. He then grabbed a bat and said that he needed to address the Elite if they still were the Elite. He said he hadn't seen half of them in months and he didn't know where they were, but that he was challenging them to a stadium stampede match. Now, I'm not real sure what that is. JR did say something about it being in the Jackson Jaguar stadium. But with it being a stampede match, that sounds right up Hangman Page's alley. Vanguard 1 actually comes down, and Jericho asks Vanguard, does the Elite accept? And Vanguard shows on his screen the words, we accept. So he decides to introduce Vanguard 1 to his new friend, whose name is Floyd. And Floyd is the bat that Jericho just happens to be carrying. And then he proceeds to smash Vanguard 1 into pieces. Matt Hardy comes running out and is lifting the pieces of Vanguard up and is almost crying as, they explain how Vanguard was a good friend of Matt Hardy's. As we come back from commercial, they announced that Mike Tyson is going to present the TNT Championship to the winner of Cody versus Lance Archer at Double or Nothing on May 23rd. So for all of you out there that had heard the rumors that it was going to be Sting, it's not. It's going to be Mike Tyson. And I think that's pretty interesting, especially considering Mike Tyson was at one of the early pay-per-view shows that AEW ever did. And he's in the Hall of Fame of the WWE and was at a lot of their WrestleManias. So we know Mike Tyson likes his wrestling. Then we get the main event, which is Brody Lee, and he brings number 10 from the Dark Order out versus Christopher Daniels, who is with SCU. Now, SCU doesn't stay by the ring. They actually go over the barricade and join the babyface section of the fans. And Daniels did show some offense, but this match really was about building Brody Lee up for Jon Moxley and him showing the monster and the powerhouse that he is and that he is worthy of taking on the World Championship title match this soon. Because when you think about it, he just got introduced to us a couple months ago. Now, in the middle of this, the Dark Order actually come out. There's quite a few of them. So SCU and Colt Cabana end up jumping the barricades and fighting them off. But Brody Lee right after that does the discus lariat for the win on Chris Daniels. The Dark Order end up handing Brody Lee Jon Moxley's World Championship belt, and Brody Lee wants to be introduced as the World Champion. Well, Jon Moxley comes out and starts beating up the Dark Order. As Brody Lee sneaks off and leaves with Jon Moxley's title again. So Moxley grabs a mic and he's basically pissed. He says that Brody Lee has disrespected him and he's gonna make him pay with interest. And that championship is more than just a piece of metal to him, and Brody Lee's gonna find that out. I really, really look and hope that this is a good match at Double or Nothing. But I hope that they do not give this belt to Brody Lee. I understand they've been building his character, they've been building his cult-like following, and he's been acting like Vince McMahon, and on and on and on. But I really think that AEW needs to establish a long-term champion. You think about it, Jericho held the belt from, I believe it was August, until January or February when Moxley won it. So Moxley has only had it 4 or 5 months. He needs to hold it longer. They need to not make it a belt that they're going to play tag with, that they're going to have a lot of different people hold it. So I really hope that they let Moxley continue to hold this. I'm not sure who he would take on next, because I thought this Brody Lee build-up would take a while longer, and they would really get in deep with his character and have him play some mind games with Moxley. But they hurried it up, and I'm sure it was due to the pandemic. But it's just really frustrating not knowing what their plans are. But it's also exciting not knowing what their plans are. But what do you guys think? What do you think should happen? Should Moxley lose the belt? If he does, then who's Brody Lee's next fight with? And if he doesn't, who's Jon Moxley's next fight with? And what do you think a stadium stampede is? You guys have got to write in and tell me. Write me at wrestlingovertime@gmail.com or hit me up on Wrestling Overtime on Twitter or on our Facebook page. Don't forget to subscribe to get all the latest episodes, news, and updates that are going on in pro wrestling. We are now covering Impact also, and when other territories start back up, or other promotions start back up, then we'll try to start covering them, at least in the news and updates, to keep you guys up to date on the latest. The new thing that I have started, if you will go to medium.com, all the news and articles are also there. You go to medium.com and you want to type in Wrestling Overtime, and there is a whole publication there that will give you all the articles and news updates that you guys have missed. But anyway, I look forward to talking to you guys soon. Have a great one.